Okay, my name is Rasha Murtada. I work at the Dubai School of Government as a research associate in the Governance and Innovation program, where most of our work over the past 2 years has focused on social media in the Arab region. The Arab Social Media Report is a recurring publication that we put out every few months, and it mainly focuses on highlighting and analyzing the usage and trends of social media in all 22 Arab countries, plus a couple of other Middle Eastern countries. And our main aim is to try and see what the impact that social media can have on growth and development, social inclusion, good governance, and policy making in the region. Well, actually, one of the main things that we've noticed over the past year, and mainly due to the Arab Spring, is a shift in the type of usage of social media. So whereas in 2010 it was mainly used for social purposes, for entertainment purposes, due to the Arab Spring it became more used for political reasons, things such as mobilizing movements, disseminating information about protests and events. It was used both by governments and citizens to engage with each other, sometimes positively, sometimes negatively. But I think more importantly, we're seeing that it's also transcending beyond the political to becoming more about civic and social participation. So basically engaging with your community, trying to fix social problems in your community as well. There is, to a certain extent. I mean, we basically look a lot at Facebook and Twitter, and we've noticed that in terms of penetration, and by that I mean the number of people as a percentage of the population, Facebook, the top 5 Facebook users are more of a mix between GCC countries and, Lebanon, Tunis and Jordan. Whereas when it comes to Twitter, the top 5 countries are actually almost all GCC countries in addition to Egypt. So you can see there's a bit of a difference between Twitter and Facebook across the region. Well, I think the main findings we got from this survey, and the reason we did the survey in the first place, is that there's quite a big gender gap between male and female usage in the Arab world of Facebook specifically. So only about 1/3 of Facebook users in the Arab world are women, whereas on a global average, about 50% of Facebook users are women. So we wanted to see what was it that was holding women back from using social media. So by doing this survey, we asked both men and women what they thought the factors were that were holding women back. And it turns out, I think one of our main findings is that it's not about the women themselves. It's not anything personal. It's not to do with their ICT literacy, with their level of education, with that sort of thing. It has more to do with the social and cultural constraints. Women don't feel comfortable perhaps going on the internet, expressing their views because of social constraints. And I think that's a very important finding. Another main thing we found is that social media seems to be a gender equalizer. So men and women seem to think about social media the same way, the positive impact it can have, and they also seem to use social media in more or less the same way. But having said all that, and given all the positive perceptions about social media, we have to stress that it's not always the answer. We have to address gender inequalities on the ground, which still exist, basically.